Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to yet another Mortal Kombat video. Now, in today's topic and discussion, we're going to be talking about a topic that I'd previously touched on a few weeks back, where I discussed what might be the future of the series with 12, and if it were to follow Liu Kang's ending. With that said, I wanted to flip the coin on this, and actually discuss what we could see if the studio were to possibly pursue the Shang Tsung ending. Now, whilst the Kung Lao ending definitely feels like the safe bet, as it is pretty much the happy ending, and a callback to an age that we've only ever really heard of, Shang Tsung's ending brings forth a new and somewhat uncertain era that could be very interesting if it is handled well. It deals with a lot of cosmic aspects and parts of the series that actually feel like a bit of a callback to the 3D era of games, something that the current trilogy has actually avoided to incorporate. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Shang Tsung's ending and why I would actually like to see it come to fruition. But before we do so, we do actually have a sponsor for today's video. Freeze! Stop whatever you're doing and take a breath. Don't waste your life. It's time you made some changes. Have you taken down the Doom Lord yet? Crushed the Ice Golem? Ascended the Doom Tower? What about fighting against millions of real players in the arena? Well, now you can get your life in order, because it's time to raid. Explore millions of champions, combinations, and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 500 champions blessed with unique skills, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid your way by using the links below. Play your way, as it is available on iOS, Android, and desktop. Now, Raid has a plethora of bosses, but some of my personal favorites is the Fire Knight and the Forcekeep Guardian. The Fire Knight was once a loyal follower of Volcar, but has since fallen from grace. Upon committing regicide, he has lost his way and his honor, and it's ultimately up to you to finally put a stop to his madness. With champions like Arbiter, Allure, and Coldheart, you have an incredible chance to apply enough DPS to put this fallen knight into a deep slumber. Our next boss is Thorn Davil. Whilst born mortal, Thorn's ambitions of godhood clouded his judgment, and thus his arrogance got the best of him. His greed has stranded him for an eternity in the Forcekeep, and he must be removed. With Razin and Zargala at your side, you can crumble his iron wall defense and finally crush his crown with strong DPS monsters like the Doom Priest. Now, one of my personal favorite aspects of Raid is the ability to play it on the go. As someone who travels around a lot, it's super nice being able to play it anytime, anywhere on the go, and I can even play it on my desktop, so the action never really has to end wherever you are at. So with that being said, what's new with Raid? Well, this month, Raid has released a ton of amazing new clan features and improvements. There are brand new quests for you and your clan members to work on together, new benefits for every clan member for just being a part of it, and even a brand new clan shop that gives you access to some incredibly powerful tools. I like playing with other players, so I love all of the new content here to explore and complete with my fellow clan members. This month also has new champions to collect from fragments in the Doom Tower, and a ton of other events and competitions to take part in. If you want to get a head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link down in the description below or scan my QR code. By doing so, you'll get a free epic champion, Chonaru, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, so what are you waiting for? Click the link down in the description below, and I'll catch you all there. Now, before we get right into things, let's have a quick recap of the Shang Tsung ending and what did it mean for Mortal Kombat 11. Well, at the end of 11, Shang Tsung was able to defeat both Liu Kang and Kronika, obtaining the Titan's crown and become the weaver of the Hourglass of Time. By bending the sands of time to his will, Shang Tsung was basically able to usher in a new era where he was the overseer and titan of this world. Something that's very in line with his character, as Shang has always been an opportunist. Upon sitting on his throne throne of power, we see that he's enslaved the likes of the gods in the form of Raiden and Fujin. Here, they are merely his puppets that are being used to merge the realms against their will. With no elder gods at hand, no one can stop the Sorcerer Supreme as he utters, "It has begun." So it's a very cool and very grim ending for 11, as your heroes either die or are enslaved under Shang Tsung. No doubt, a fate worse than death. Now, with that being said, why do I want to see this ending kind of come to fruition? Well, if I'm entirely honest here, it's mostly due to the fact it breaks the status quo. Ever since the reboot of Mortal Kombat 9, we've been following a very somewhat broken mirrored timeline of the original continuity. We're expecting soft reboots of older events that are just kind of repackaged, and because of that, we just know how things are kind of gonna unfold. Now, while some may actually like this, as it does somewhat play it safe in terms of story and roster, things, understandably for me, have become a bit predictable. One of my favorite aspects about Aftermath as a whole, or even really 11's story, is the fact that it is something completely different and something that I wouldn't expect. Aftermath played with the idea of trust and betrayal, something we all know we would see, but the question is how this would actually unravel. That was my favorite aspect about 11, and something I would like to see going forward. Now, of course, this can be explored in either Liu's or Shang's ending, but for the sake of continuity and cohesive storytelling, I would like to see something come away from this ending. There's a very interesting narrative here for how a story can be weaved. And I mean, hey, it even kind of starts off with a homage to the older games, where Shang Tsung kills Liu Kang, which is of course echoes of the past from Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Another reason why I would love to see this come to fruition is because of the premise it does set up. With Shang Tsung acting as this master manipulator and god king, it creates a scenario where the old heroes are now aligned with Shang Tsung against their will. We can push forth some of the lesser known characters in the series, more specifically the underutilized and underdeveloped characters of the 3D era. Now, for those of you who don't really know me, I am hyper critical of the 3D era of Mortal Kombat games, because there's a lot of aspects of that trilogy that are simply just bad, and that's largely due to the limitations of the time. But with that said, those limitations aren't exactly as much of a problem now, and thus I think with the right amount of creativity, you could probably reintroduce a number of different characters in an interesting and better manner. With the floor now open, it is the perfect opportunity for many of those characters to rise up and establish themselves in this universe, because there are plenty of them that we haven't seen for a very long time. Now, along with this, and reintroducing certain ideas and aspects, continuing this form of continuity actually allows for a better understanding of cohesive storytelling. One of the weakest aspects about Mortal Kombat 11 was the sudden inclusion of Titans. Now, Titans on paper are really cool, they're very simple, and that's fine, but in a series that has been established over 20 years, introducing such a big and wild concept without any foreshadowing in advance feels like it came out of nowhere. And I feel if we were to follow this ending, we could not only expand on this idea, but also clear up the relationship of the pantheon of gods. Like, where do the Titans sit in the relationship between elder gods and the One Being? What were they doing during that war? Is the One Being secretly a Titan? I simply don't know. And I feel if we were to follow the Kung Lao ending, then Titans would be undermined even more, thus making the story of 11 extremely weak because of that. With Shang Tsung effectively having become a Titan at this point, it could paint a target on his back, where we can introduce other Titans to the series that are interested in taking Kronika's crown and maybe her former position in the universe. So I think this would be a really cool concept to actually follow up on and actually understand, as it's great world building and allows us to understand the mythos of the Mortal Kombat series. Now, quickly touching back on what I had mentioned about rosters, whilst I have mentioned the 3D era, we can also introduce characters from the rebooted trilogy. So this could reintroduce the likes of Takeda, Kung Jin, and Ferrator. With these characters included, it's actually a great mesh across the entire Mortal Kombat series. We have the old guard of heroes now turned villains against their will, will, forced to fight against a shunned era of the series that are not willing to go down without a fight. And finally, we have the new age characters jumping back into the fight that were absent in the Battle of Time. It's essentially a clash of 3 different ages of Mortal Kombat altogether, and I feel like 12 would be a great battleground for this. You can see alliances be made and relationships be broken, and that would make for a very interesting form of storytelling. That was one of my favorite parts of Aftermath. The unpredictable nature of how the story unfolds constantly had me on the edge of my seat, as I had absolutely no idea how this story would unfold. If you even want to make more homages to the past, and this is actually a pretty interesting idea, you could reintroduce the Kamidogus into this game in order to separate the realms from Shang Tsung's grasp, and possibly use them as a catalyst to destroy his crown. Again, there's tons of ideas at our fingertips right here that are waiting to be worked with. As I pointed out in the Kung Lao video, there's tons of source material to work with here, and for me here, it's about using those ideas and reincorporating them into the story in just such a way that it's fresh and new and not rehashes of the past. You know, whilst we want to homage the past, we don't want to directly steal everything from it. Reintroduce tools in an interesting way, something that changes and alters the future for very interesting storytelling. Now, the final reason as to why I would like to see this ending kind of come to fruition is because I'm tired of reboots. The Mortal Kombat series has multiple different timelines, multiple different incarnations through media and games and comics. And I don't know if it's me showing my age, or maybe the fact that the early era of the 2000s as well as the 2010 reboots have burnt me out, but I'm simply exhausted of the reboot key constantly being pressed every few years because there's not another idea or way for writers to introduce something new. A big thing that I've really grown fond of in the last few years, especially from a narrative perspective, is respecting the legacy of older games. There's nothing wrong with having something new. It's all a matter of how you write it, you spin it, and how it lines up with the previous source material. I know many aren't fond of the Titans, and I completely understand that, but for me it feels like they're sitting on a gold mine. It's something with potential that they are yet to tap into to show off how big and large the Mortal Kombat universe is. We've already tangled with timelines and multiverse theory. Let's quite literally fill in gaps between those blanks. What exists in between that? And I think this is the right way to do it. Now, with that said, I do expect the Kung Lao ending to actually be the main canon ending, but I love toying around with this idea because there's so much to work with. I would actually like to see it happen in one way, shape and form, maybe as a spin-off DLC in Mortal Kombat 12, but we can only make assumptions here, and that's something I really would like to see. But until then guys, this has been it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it and learned more by doing so. What do you think about Shang Tsung's ending? Would you actually like to see this story be followed up on, or would you much prefer for them to follow up on the Kung Lao ending? Both deal with very interesting aspects here, so I can understand if there's a bit of preference. I love both ideas, but personally for me, I think the uncertain and scary nature of Shang Tsung's ending could bring forth a very mysterious era of Mortal Kombat where we simply don't know what comes next, and that is what excites me the most. But until then guys, this has been it for me. Now before this video does wrap up, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, and please do not forget to subscribe and tick that bell, as it's a fantastic way of keeping up to date with all of my content. But until then, as always, please comment, like, subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.